Guten Tag. Hallo. Na, wie es geht? Ich muss mal bitte gucken. Hallo. Tast. Batch. Dankeschön für 12 Monate. Fuck, nächsten Monat haben wir das Einjährige. Müssen noch gucken. Ich habe Anfang Monat frei. Vielleicht mache ich in der Woche einfach, mach mal, wünsch dir was Woche oder so. Vielleicht kann man sowas tun. Oder so. Ich weiß es noch nicht. Keine Ahnung. Wir gucken. Hallo Taris. Hallo der Seppo. Hallo Kitty. Viel Spaß beim Auskurieren vom Kater, I guess. Hallo Bayern. Ja, verblechkatert. Genau, Taris. Genau das. So. Es ist viel zu lange her, ne? Wir waren immer noch im Tutorial-Trial. Wir haben nichts gemacht in dem Spiel, bis auf angespielt bisher. Ups. Da sind Dinge zwischengekommen, okay? Okay. Ich hoffe, ihr erinnert euch. Ich nicht. Sonst hole ich dann gleich einen Guide raus. Dass ich nicht weiß, wo ich war. Naja. Mord an der Gänsetante, das stimmt. Die Gänsetante vom ersten Game ist ermordigt worden. Das ist ein Satz. Continue? Ja, da. Trial Part 1. The Adventure of Blossoming, holy shit, Worte. Attorney. Yes, please. Muss ich mir wieder dran gewöhnen, dass ich Englisch vorlese. Oh, shit. Hallo. So, ist es laut genug für euch? Müsst ihr dann gleich mal sagen mit der Musik. Ob das passt oder nicht. Pasta. Ob es Pasta ist oder nicht. Ob die Pasta al dente ist oder nicht. 13. August, 10:41 Uhr morgens. Supreme Court of Judicator. Defendants and Chamber 3. Wie habe ich die Leute gelesen? Ich habe es nicht. Keine Ahnung mehr. I'm so sorry, Susato. I should have told you about the toxin. Ray. Ah, stimmt. Und Ray hatte ja einen Crush auf verkleidete Susato. Was voll männlich aussieht. Lautcheck passt. Okay. You have a strong sense of responsibility, I know. That's why you decided to shoulder the burden alone. No, that's not it at all. I was scared of my failure coming to light, that's all. So I hoped to retrieve the substance from the Englishwoman before anyone found out. Das sieht auch so nett aus, ne? Mikotoba sieht so richtig freundlich aus. Hallo. Before the trial started, do you remember what you said, Susato? That you had no doubt in your mind about my innocence. That you'd stand by me to the last. Oh. I remember. And yet I didn't deserve your trust in me. I hid important details from you, Susato. I completely betrayed your faith in me. Hit me, Susato. I deserve it. No, in fact, throw me to the floor. Ist das Kitty? Hit me! Nee, die einzige Person, die auf den Boden geworfen wird, ist Yunosuke. Das gehört sich so. Stand by me. Stand by me. Oh, stand by me. Ich muss das immer noch spielen. Ich muss Final Fantasy 15 immer noch spielen. Leute, ich habe zu viele Spiele. Erstmal 12 fertig machen. Ich bin fast fertig mit Leveln. Fast. Also. Fast. Almost. No, that's too good for me as well. Drag me through the city streets. Okay. I'm no better, you know. Oh? Even though in my heart I knew that you'd pulled the knife blade from Miss Brett's back. There was just a brief moment when, in my mind, I doubted you. First world problems, yes. Susato. I'm sorry. After I stood there and promised you that I'd stand by you, and always be on your side. I betrayed your faith in me too. And as such, I failed you as a lawyer. Oh, no, no! I think this situation has taught both of you a valuable lesson. Placing your unbridled faith in another is no easy task. Yes, Father, that fact has certainly struck home. Which is why I can see more clearly now. So, Ray. Yes? Can you find it in your heart to forgive me? Of course, my love. Ich mein. Oh. No, she's sad. Oh, Susato. You know, you'll always be a gallant, dashing lawyer in my eyes now. Haha! Of course. Susato's very dashing. Oh, Ray. Ich werde jetzt für immer einen Crush auf dich haben. Moment, was? So, ich weiß gar nicht mehr jetzt, was genau. Also, okay. Ich glaube, ich fange an, mich daran zu erinnern, was los war. Sie hat ein Nervengift abbekommen. Also die Schwanlady hat ein Nervengift abbekommen. Die Frage ist noch von wem. Es könnte ja gewesen sein, dass es durch die Rückseite, da hat es ja ein Loch drin gehabt, ne? In dem. Warte. Wir gehen am besten einfach mal in Court Record reingucken. Wir gucken. Also ich habe keine Ahnung mehr. Ja, mir geht's ähnlich. Ich könnte einfach mal. Ich guck mal die Sachen an, die wir haben. Okay. Victim, Giselle Brett, female British. Time of death, 11th August, around 2 p.m. Ascertained by examination and witness statements. Cause of death, single deep stab wound from behind, piercing a lung and resulting in a fatal hemorrhage. Death would have occurred within minutes. Notes, extreme meiosis, pupil constriction, was observed in the victim in both eyes. Das war... Pupil Constriction war sehr verengt, ne? Die waren nicht weit, die waren sehr verengt. Okay, deswegen sind wir drauf gekommen, dass es ein Gift war. Genau. Genau, da, den Schlitz meinte ich. Du hast sogar vergessen, dass ich angefangen hatte. Ich wusste, dass ich angefangen hatte, weil ich das andere fertig hatte, aber ich wusste legit nicht mehr genau was. Da war halt ihr Stuff. Da ist ihre Maske. Der Schwan ist auch gestorben. Der hat auch irgendwer gekillt. Und sie hat einen Stift in der Hand. Keine Ahnung. Sie wurde gestäbt in the back. Und dann haben wir da das Newspaper. Weiß ich nicht mehr. Dinge. Haben wir angeguckt. So, da steht Newspaper containing an article about a discussion between my father and Soseki-san. The debate became quite spirited. Das ist aber nicht so relevant. Dann haben wir den Fountain Pen. A fountain pen bearing the initials RM and an emblem of some description. There is a very small amount of liquid still inside the ink reservoir. Und die haben gesagt, es ist RM wäre unsere Angeklagte. Weil Ray. Okay. Da ist ein Symbol drauf, was wir irgendwo, glaube ich, schon mal gesehen haben. Für Spielewunsch. Ich glaube, ich hab's bei dem Kanalpunkte-Ding so reingeschrieben. Wie ich fände, dann würden die gleichen ähnlich gelten. Von wegen, das Spiel darf nicht zu teuer sein. Ich glaube, ich hab's da eben in Kanalpunkte steht's drin, was ich geschrieben habe vom Preis her. Alles, was ich irgendwie schon besitze, ist okay. Was in Game Pass ist, ist okay. Bis auf halt als großen Disclaimer keine Horrorspiele. Außer es wird halt abgesprochen. Wenn ihr vorher fragt und sagt, ey, das ist wirklich nicht so schlimm und so, dann lasse ich mit mir reden, aber so grundsätzlich. Aber vielleicht wäre das was für das Ein-Jahres-Affiliate-Ding. So ein bisschen Spielewünsche spielen. Halt dann anspielen sind es eine Stunde. Keine Horrorspiele. Da komme ich nicht weit. Und dann sitze ich eine Stunde da im ersten Raum und tue nichts. Und weine. In der Ecke. Wenn es jetzt so vielleicht Thriller, eventuell ja noch. Ich habe ja auch schon Thriller angespielt. Ich war nicht sehr erfreut darüber, aber eventuell. Ich lasse mit mir reden. Außer so Silent Hill und so Zeug will ich nicht spielen. Oh Gott. Genau, das war der andere Artikel. Poison Article. An article about poison that was stolen from a laboratory at Yumei University. Even my father, who was responsible for the lab, knew nothing of the incident. Dann haben wir das zweite Bild, wo sie das Messer rauszieht, weil sie ein Idiot ist. Okay. Und wir wussten, dass wir... Ah, genau. Wir haben rausgefunden, dass wir einen weiteren Zeugen haben, der dieses Bild hier gemacht hat, wegen... Es war das ist ein anonymes Bild. Ich erinnere mich. Wir haben aber diesen Crack in der Kamera bereits schon einmal gesehen. Und zwar ist das hier. Auf diesem Bild. Deswegen wussten wir wussten, wer diesen Artikel geschrieben hat. Also konnten wir die Person identifizieren. Ich glaube, die Person wird gerade gesucht. Genau. Mikotoba ist da. Remember Me ist unsere Verdächtige. Dr. John Wilson haben ja herausgefunden, dass das Iris' Vater ist. Da das Victim. Taketsuchi Aochi. Genau, Satoru war mal wieder, Hosonaga war mal wieder da und Suseki war da. Genau, okay. Ich hab's so grob wieder im Kopf, was wir getan haben. I was so scared, you know. When it happened, I didn't know what was going on. The English woman was sitting at the back of the hut, listening to what I was saying. And now it was you who stole the poison? Well now, whatever do you mean? And then, a moment later, she suddenly got to her feet. Und stumbled, ja. Okay, ey, meine Theorie mit, dass sie durch das Hut gesteppt wurde, ist gar nicht so falsch, anscheinend. Before collapsing on the floor in front of me, with a knife in her back. Knife. Knife to meet you. Oder auch nicht. Die ist ja nicht so gut ausgegangen. It all happened right before my eyes. And you were the only people in the hut at the time. That's right. Just Miss Brett and myself. There was no one else. So I just don't understand how she could possibly have been stabbed like that. A great mystery indeed. I still can't believe it happened. That's why I just couldn't bring myself to speak up. It will be alright. However it happened, and whatever really went on by the sea that day. I promise you that I'm going to prove everything you've said you saw as true. Spoken like a true Mikotoba. Oh, Daddy's proud! Now, I think we should discuss what's coming up in the trial, don't you? We don't have much time. We must make sure we have all facts in order. Yes, I expect the poison is going to come under close scrutiny in the upcoming proceedings. The police should hopefully have identified it on the blade by now. The trouble is, it's a completely new laboratory synthesis. Ich wieder mit Englisch, ne? Synthesis blend of alkaloids. Holy shit, Worte. Alkaloids. Oh god. The police won't have any way of testing for it. Oh, I see. Tja, ist aber wieder supi. Yes, without this chemical reagent, it's impossible to detect the toxin. Chemical reagent? I sent a colleague of mine off with some earlier to deliver to the police headquarters. I think perhaps you should have some as well, though, just in case. Oh, kann ich ihn auf den Stift schmieren? Kann ich kombinieren Stifte mit Reagent? Bitte? Nein? Okay. The chemical reagent has been entered into the court record. A special indicator solution for a new poison under development by my father's team. It's been created in strict secrecy and exists only in my father's laboratory. What's the matter, Susato? You're suddenly very quiet. It's this newspaper article. Exclusive deadly poison stolen from Yume Medical Research Laboratory. I'm wondering how the information got out, given that it was a government secret. Kombiniere Ziege mit Scheibenkäse. Gut. Das wäre vielleicht auch mal was, mal einen Point-and-Click zu spielen und einfach richtig hart zu failen, ne? It was all the English woman's doing. What? It was when the professor and Soseki-san were being interviewed at the laboratory. That so-called English lady swamped in and without any compunction said to Professor Mikotoba, "Oh, Professor, surely your guest would love to hear about your work on that substance there." Okay. It put me in a very awkward position, to be frank. But Soseki-san's curiosity had been quipped, so I had little choice but to give him a cursory introduction. Bitte was für ein Spiel? Baphomets Fluch, ja? Oh, ich müsste, apropos Spiellist, ich müsste einfach mal Sachen aufschreiben. Ich habe keinen eigenen GOG-Account. Ich habe einen Zugang auf den GOG-Account, auf dem einige Spiele drauf sind. Ich muss mal gucken, welche genau. Die könnte ich theoretisch auch spielen. Aber ich will nicht unbedingt selber noch einen GOG-Account machen, so. GOG ist dafür geschlossen. Nur das, was drauf ist, was ich eh schon drauf habe, kann ich spielen, so. So then, Soseki-san knew about the poison. Und der Kameramann wusste auch über das Poison. Falls ihr das vergessen habt, hallo. Yes, and it's highly likely that the reporter who was writing up the story about us would have caught a glimpse of the toxin too. Plötzlich hatte ich Zugang. Genau, das ist mir einfach zugefallen. Dieser Zugang. Ups. This Minimemo-san. By the way, did that reporter join you all when you went to the beach? Oh, no. I don't remember the reporter being there. Indeed, he shouldn't have seen. I very much doubt anyone would have wanted him there. Oh? Aber wie ist er dann mit der Kamera dahin gekommen, hä? Das ergibt jetzt also gar keinen Sinn, hä? A known criminal had been given permission by the authorities to bathe by the seaside. Soseki-san pointed out that inviting a reporter might be problematic, so the man was sent back to his office. Yet, he obviously didn't go back. He secretly followed the party to the beach and took this very candid photograph. And then presumably he posted it anonymously to the police. Yes, that must be what happened. Counsel, we've just heard that the new witness is now ready to testify. Och nee, jetzt kommen bestimmt alle Lügen. The trial is about to resume. Please proceed into the courtroom at once. Okay, danke, augenloser Bailiff. It's time to steal ourselves once again, then. Defense attorney, Ryotaro Naruhodo. Yes! Naruhodo! Rei has put her faith in me now and told me everything. So I can't let her down. I have to prove that what she's telling the court is true. I have to prove what really happened that day. Wieder 3 Milliarden Jahre lange Introduction-Ding-Booms Trial. 13. August, 11:30 Uhr. Supreme Court of Judicature. Courtroom 1. Oh, nice. Hello. Uchi! Das ist Uchi wieder. I hereby call this court to order, as we convenes to continue the trial of Ray Mimbami. Prosecutor Auchi, have you summoned the new witness? Ja.
Before I address that question, Your Excellency, I have some very important news to share.
Oh, okay. I mean, sie sieht schon toll aus in dem Outfit, ne? Ich mag den Hut, der hat ein Sternchen drauf. Ist voll cute. What news? And why does he look so happy about it?
During the recess, with the collaboration of Professor Mikotoba's laboratory at the Yumei University, the police re-examined the knife that was used to end Mrs. Giselle Brett's life.
Und es war kein Gift drauf? Weil es nicht auf dem Messer war. I don't know. Excellent, I admire your rapid handling of the matter.
Oh, too kind, Your Excellency, too kind. I was barely carrying out your instructions, of course.
I had the reagent delivered to police headquarters by a rickshaw, so it would be there in good time. But judging by the man's swagger, I fear we might need to brace ourselves for the inevitable. And counsel, what were the results? Hätte er gerne auf Stift. Kann ich kombinieren Stift mit Gift? Nee, mit Reagent.
This dagger, which was so cruelly used to end the life of the victim, has no trace of poison anywhere along its blade.
What? Are you sure about that?
I would stake the reputation of the police on it.
Okay. Armed with the reagent, the test is extremely simple. I couldn't have made a mistake. The murder weapon has been entered into the court record. A small knife from the scene of the crime that was found in the victim's back. No trace of poison was found on the blade.
In short, the accused's feeble excuse earlier has been utterly destroyed.
Oh, danke schön. Ich gehe mal erstmal, weil ich muss mal erstmal, bevor du weiter redest. Das ist ein Messer. Das ist Blut. Viel Blut. Ah, yes. This must be the victim's blood. Oh dear. Warum sieht sie in dem Bild einfach noch viel männlicher aus? What the hell? Susato, please. Holy shit. Oh. Look at how cool she is. Very cool. Oh dear. Blood is never a pretty sight, is it? I'm having to fight the urge to turn it around. Turn it under a hot tap and get it clean. You've always been fetishous about cleanliness, haven't you? I think this is something else, Father. Okay, aber sonst gibt's nichts dazu, ne? Gibt's nichts an dem Messer, was ich angucken kann? Ne. Na denn, Pech. Hey, ja. Yup. This is how I feel. Heute.
Now, the prosecution is ready to call the witness.
Ah, the newspaper reporter who managed to capture a photograph of the crucial moment. Good. He's gonna lie. He's lying. Very well. Officer, bring the witness. No trace of poison on the knife. But if that's really the case, how could a toxin have been entered the victim's body? Hat sie es getrunken, maybe?
Witness, please state your name and occupation for the court.
Many memo of the show your news. I'm what people call, like to call Giorno. Giorno? Oh, guck mal! Was für eine Convenience. Er hat die gleichen Namenbuchstaben wie unser Opfer. Nicht Opfer, unser Angeklagter. Ein Zufall? Mini Memos, sogar ein mega ähnlicher Name, lol. What's a giorno, father? Do you know? It's simply a contraction of journalists. I'm where the news breaks, putting pen to paper, to catch those scoops that is there in print the next morning. Okay. Please don't. Ah. Das nicht weh. They don't call me call me the hero of the Herald for nothing. The nice guy of news. Nice guy? Giorno Italien. Aber er hat kein italienischer Name. Einfach random plötzlich einfach italienischer Akzent geben. Ich weiß nicht, wie ein italienischer Akzent klingt. Oh, so, it was you who took this photograph, was it? Oh, well, what have we here? I'm sorry? Oh, embrace yourself, people! Many Memo sends us a scoop in the offing. Oh no. Oh no! Female student, up to foul play defended by curiously handsome young lawyer in Supreme Court. The readers will lap this up. We'll set it above the fold at 72 point in a 5-leg format for the morning edition. Was? Also 72 point ist aber gemeint die Größe der Schrift. 5-leg format bin ich mir nicht sicher, aber ich denke, dass 5 Zeilen gemeint sind. Guck mal, ich kenne mich aus. Oder so. Ich glaube, das ist ein Fetisch. Ach so. Punk. Hä? Alright then, let's start with your name. Oh, it's Ryotaro Naruhodo. Next, what made you want to become a lawyer? Hallo? Wo sind wir hier? I wanted to reform our country's legal system, I suppose. Ryotaro has suddenly become very ambitious, I see. I just borrowed Kazuma some stream for a while. Oh, by the way, my name is Taketsuchi Aouchi. It's Taketsuchi Aouchi. The so-called dark horse of the Supreme Court. My objections strike fear into every defense lawyer's heart. Like, I don't fucking care about you. Ouch! Das tut sehr Aouchi. Hm? No, the readers won't buy that. Oh, what? Witness. Yes. What this court demands to know is whether or not you were responsible for taking this, for the taking of this picture. The picture. It was delivered anonymously to the Imperial Police Bureau only yesterday. Und schnell die Brandsalbe! Yeah, I wouldn't be a journal if I didn't click quite when presented with a scoop like that now, would I? Sometimes stories call out to me, sometimes I have to chase them down. But either way, you've got to be fast. Fast legs to run with, and fast hand to write with. It's no good if you don't note it down, I always say. That's what I call my Dein was? What? Das, was ich davon denke. Minimalism. Er spricht in Zungen! Yes, very much. Minimalism? Moism? Masm? Masm? Ah, yes, I remember your face. We met that day when you were interviewing myself and Soseki-san. Yes, right. That was me, Minimos again. But you were supposed to be going back to the Shoyo News office after our meeting. But the scoop is, I didn't! Oh no, he didn't! How dare he! Wie konnte er es wagen? Because that English woman's words had whipped my journalistic interests. Miss Brett's words? A criminal left to do as she pleases just because she happens to be a British citizen? It's horse dung. This country's judiciary is rotten to the core. Oh. Und dann dachte er einfach, er macht es selber. I see. The Supreme Court's rulings aren't worth the paper they're written on. The police are just imperial pawns. Oh, damn.
Stay your tongue, young man. There are complex political issues at play.
Well, anyway, I quickly jotted down those words she said in my mini memo pad. Mini memo pad. Sag mir das Thema schnell hintereinander. Holy shit. Are you ready? I'll read it out. It's all here, right? Here goes. I should like to go with everyone to see your country's coast. A serious criminal going on some junket. Junket. The people need to know about this. That's why I decided to sneak after them. To get the woman's story so I could hammer her in the press. Do you mean to say that you did indeed witness it firsthand? The grim scene portrayed in this photograph? Oh yes, I saw it with my very own shone eyes. From start to finish, through the viewfinder of my trusty camera. Look at this photograph! Okay. Thank you, Minimomo-san. You will now give a formal testimony before the court. You will state exactly what it is that you witnessed of the events surrounding Miss Brett's death. Was denn? That may be funny. Oder so. Nicht, dass ich lustig wäre. The camera never lies. Also, nicht? The beach hut was made of shoddy old reed screens, so there were plenty of gaps I could see inside through. The Englishwoman was sitting on a stool when the student girl came in and started arguing with her. Seconds later, the girl pulled out a knife, throwing the Englishwoman to the floor as she stabbed her in the back. My smothering Chono spirits burst into flames. Quick as a flash, I whipped out my camera, ready to click. Du, nicht lustig. Meistens bin ich nicht lustig. I pulled apart the rough weave of one of the screens and poked the lens through for the perfect shot. Okay. Reed screens, you say? Right. You can see them clearly enough in that great shot I snapped. The hut walls were just screens made of coarsely woven reeds. Nice! Okay. Wenn du meinst. Yes, it allows the breeze to pass through and bring some relief from the summer heat. And it was a breeze for me to poke my camera through and see the whole thing hotting up. Ignoring for the time being the appealing invasion of privacy involved, did you witness everything that happened from the moment the defendant entered the hut? Oh yes, I saw it. I saw the whole thing from start to finish. And you say that you took the photograph through a gap in one of the screens. Luckily for me, they were pretty shoddily woven. I pulled the reeds apart and thrust the lens of my camera through the gap. I would get away with it, or would I be seen? I was the gamble of lifetime. Oh, okay. A tendency of purpose that's considered admirable in a journalist, I suppose. Run a risk one day, run a scoop the next. That's many memoirism in a nutshell. Ich weiß immer nicht, wie man das ausspricht. Egal. At last. It would appear we have a genuine witness to this wicked crime. The evidence and testimony are extremely compelling. I believe we may be close to a verdict. No.
Wonderful news, Their Excellency. Wonderful.
Nevertheless, it cannot be denied that this testimony begs one very large question.
What question?
Exclusive news, a startling photograph, all the makings of an exceptional story for the reporter. Why then, was the story never published? Oh, that's right. Spann die nicht so. It seems clear to me that there are circumstances at play here that are yet to be understood.
Ha! More pathetic excuses.
Very well then, Counsel. Proceed with your cross-examination. Yes, Your Excellency. Oh Gott, was finden wir wohl raus? There's more to this report than meets the eye. He's keeping something about this case very close to his chest. Die Kamera. Okay. Kann ich die nochmal angucken? Okay, aber das ist sein Stift. Kann ich denn irgendwie damit reagieren? Kann ich das hier angucken? Was steht da drauf? The label appears to be written in a foreign language that I don't know. Es ist German? Was steht da bitte? It's German, so your knowledge of English is going to be of little help here, I'm afraid. Was ist ein Was steht da drauf? Tell me. Ich kann das nicht lesen. Couldn't you just have written medicine on it in Japanese? Then we'd all be able to read it. German is the international language of medicine, my dear. It is? What? But yes, I can certainly see the merit in labeling the bottle in Japanese. Though I'm not sure medicine would be entirely appropriate. Was steht denn drauf? Ha? Jaimi! Etwa so viel kann ich auslesen. Ist das ein R? Ich kann es lesen. 2000 NES? Ha? Kann das irgendwer lesen? Das ist Deutsch, ihr könnt doch alle Deutsch. Lies das mal für mich. Ja, aber das ergibt keinen Sinn. Denke eher, dass das ein NES ist am Schluss. Aber ist das ein R? Ich habe keine Ahnung. Ist das ein I? Nee, ist schon eher ein R. Ein K. I don't know. Lass mir das. Ist da sonst noch irgendwas drauf? Nein. Okay. Na dann. Keine Ahnung, was da drauf steht. Deutsch. Da steht Deutsch drauf. So. Ich schätze mal, wir pressen einfach auf alles. Wie man halt das so tut, weil ich keine Ahnung habe. Okay, ja. Gäbe es die Zeit through. Mal überall pressen. What made you want to see what was happening inside the beach hut in the first place? I call it shonen instinct. Can you think of a better reason? Gute Reason. Bald haben wir alle Buchstaben durch, genau. Oh, I don't know. Perhaps because, as well as being a proven criminal, the person inside was a young woman. Ah, I see where you're going with this. Brace yourselves, people. He's painting the shonen as a voyeur! It's hardly slander, sir. You had a camera and you were taking pictures without the woman's knowledge. Gut. Nope, you've got it all wrong, little student boy. Sorry? To my mind, all that was inside that hut was a scoop, nothing more, nothing less. Scoops know no gender. Das ist ein Satz. Man or woman, it's all news. And that's not even many memoirism. It's basically basic journalism. Scoops, no gender. Love this. If only the cartoon wasn't as indiscriminate. Right, so if that's all buttoned up, can we move on? Tell the court then, witness. What sight befell your eyes when you looked inside the hut? A sight that vindicated my chun instinct, that's what. When I pulled back the reeds, I could see it all as clear as day. The English woman was sitting on a stool. Also das ist vielleicht das, was ein bisschen... Ja, wo hat er reingeguckt? Schwierig. So you actually saw Mimbami-san entering the hut? Yup. And she was raging like my Chono spirit. And the argument you mentioned, what was that about exactly? You stole it. You stole it. I didn't steal it. That kind of thing. Talking about the poison, I suppose. The student girl walked right up to the English woman and really started laying it on her, laying into her. I mean, if she'd led into her anymore, there would have been eggs. What? No! Stop! No! 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 What the fuck? What the hell? Stop. The man should have been an author. His descriptive talents are wasted on journalism. But the student's rantings fell on deaf ears, like a Japanese person listening to English for the first time. He really ought to work on his smiles first, though, to be honest. Sure. Anyway, the point is, that woman in the dock was mightily angry. And her temper finally got the better of her, it seems, dear me. Which was the climatic moment that I caught on film. Okay. Warum hast du nicht Tinte am Arm? Ich habe eine Frage. War das Gift in der Tinte drinne? Wenn das Gift in der Tinte drinne war, dann hat er jetzt vermutlich Gift auf dem Handgelenk. Auf dem Handballen. Pulled out the knife, throwing the English woman on the floor, and she stabbed her in the back. Sehr interessante Description. Do you swear before this court that you actually saw the precise moment when the stabbing took place? Ha! The precise moment? I didn't see just that. I saw the whole hellish scene play out, from start to finish. Oh, map. Oh. I have here a simple plan of the beach hut. Perhaps you could use it to explain to the court exactly what you witnessed. Yeah. Right, yeah. It's all here in my many memo pad. Fucking memo pad. Okay. Schätze mal, das werden wir dann gleich als Beweismittel brauchen müssen. When I first peered into the hut, I'm sure that the English woman was on the stool at the back of the hut here. Yes, the accused's own testimony confirmed that. She just sat at the back of the hut, smiling sweetly, is what I have noted down. It's my turn to testify now. Try not to interrupt. Oh, rude. Then the next moment, as I was watching... Von wo genau hast du da ausgeguckt? The evil student girl entered the hut. After a while, the pair of them ended up in the middle of the hut, arguing furiously. The English woman went for the student, but the girl dodged out of the way. And in a flash, plunged the knife into her adversary's back as the two passed each other. Okay. What you described is a grim crime indeed. Naja, grim. They'll never sugarcoat the truth. That's what Manny Wasm says. The beach hut plan has been entered into the court record. By the way, Manny Memo-san, whilst you were watching that terrible scene unfold before your eyes, through the gap in the screen, did it not occur to you to try to prevent the tragedy rather than capture it on film? Journalists have to be observers. I can't get involved. That's our raison d'être. Ich glaube, der ist mehr French als Italienisch, honestly. Okay, das ist doch Mini-Memoire. Dann ist es doch Moire. Raison d'être. Die Reason des Seins, also falls ihr das wissen wollt, das der Grund des Seins, der Reason to be. So viel Französisch kann ich noch. Nicht viel mehr, aber... So you didn't converse with Miss Brett at all? Obviously not. An observer always remains on the outside looking in. And that's something to be proud of, is it? Your Excellency, if I may. Yes, Professor. Not the French again. I think the witness' last, expertly phrased statement should perhaps be added into his formal testimony. Father, what are you? I will grant a defense request. Manny Memo-san, you will supplement your formal testimony with the aforementioned statement. Well, nihilism is the foundation of many memoirism, but I'll gladly prove that my words aren't meaningless. Okay. Das ist jetzt das letzte. Moment. Ah, Ende zum Ende. Warte. Den haben wir gehört. Okay, dann der da. My smothering chortle spirits burst into flames.
Hold it!
The court is fully aware of your desire to capture the incident on film, I'm sure. But why then did you choose to post the photograph anonymously to the police? Yeah? I'm afraid I don't understand a word that's coming out of your mouth. I'm asking why, as a journalist, you decided not to make a story out of the incident. Yeah? Think of me as a sculptor who makes art out of this sordid, private details of other people's lives. But I never discuss my own personal life in principle. I mean, that's basic many memoirism. What? It's not something to boast about.
No doubt your burning desire to see the truth exposed and justice done was what motivated you.
That's it. That's brilliant. My burning desire to see something or other exposed. He's pretty much lying, I'm sure. There has to be a good reason why he didn't think to write an article about what he saw, though. By your own admission, you were outside the hut. Now then, did you manage to take the photograph? Ah, yes, that. I'm glad you asked. Was ist auseinandergezogen? Können wir irgendwie rausfinden, wo er sich aufgehalten haben sollte, tun? But the two women inside didn't notice. Ha! Obviously not. If they had, where would I be right now? In jail, that's where. Which you think would make you reflect on what you were doing. No, Ed Shaughner's job is to collect little snippets of life as unobtrusively as possible. Eieiei. Oh, geil. Viel Spaß beim Grillen, El Seppo, und genießt die dann, ne? 3 Stunden, ja, viel Spaß, ne? Ja, wir kommen zurück zu Harry Potter Podcast. Moment. Wir kommen zurück zu Harry Podcast. Okay, maybe I need. Ich bin Podcast. Yay. Leave nothing but footprints. Take nothing but photos. Yes, that's spot on. Did you just make that up? Ziemlich sicher, ja.
The point is that the witness risked life and limb to obtain this photograph. And this photograph reveals the whole truth.
Ich will's hören. Oh.
There's nothing more to be said.
Okay, dann halt. Auchi. Oh, meine Güte. So, du hast nie mit ihr geredet. Really? You didn't set foot inside the hut at all? Are you quite sure about that? I think you may have the wrong impression of me. Ich glaube nicht. We're talking about the murder scene here. My nerves were stretched to breaking point already. Oh, I see. You were scared. Maybe I did have the wrong impression of you, yes. It was all I could do to stifle a scream and hold my hand steady enough to snap the shot. You really should have summoned help before thinking of your camera. Minimalism and humanism don't always agree. And most of the time, in those instances, minimalism comes out on top. Okay, er ist eine schlimme Person. Gut. Ja. Finde ich auch. As a sculpture of stories, sometimes I have to be cruel for my art. Yes, that's spot on! What the fuck? Surely he's making all this up? Gut, und jetzt? Fuck. He claims to have spied the whole affair from start to finish. If true, his testimony is devastating. Kann ich in Court Record was gucken gehen? Wir haben den Beachplan. Ups. Das war der falsche Knopf. Ich meine, nach dem Bild wäre ja unser Defendant hinter dem Victim gestanden. Aber auf dem Bild ist ja daneben. Right? Ich weiß nur nicht, was ich damit anfangen soll. Great. Wrigley. Oh, warte, was kann ich eigentlich zu ihm? Was weiß ich eigentlich zu ihm? People. Write in Mini-Memo. Mini-Memo. 38. A journalist of the Shoujo News who's currently following Soseki-san everywhere, reporting on his every move. As a result, he's an eyewitness to the incident. Okay. Er stalkt also Soseki. Ein Stalker ist es. Paparazzi. Paparazzi. Okay. But it does seem as though he's holding something back, doesn't it? If that's how you feel, I suggest that you trust your instinct and press him on everything he said. As you've no doubt done many times before in your role as judicial assistant. Yes, I have. I've seen witnesses like this pressed often. I know exactly what to do. Nein? Hä? Ich hab doch auf jedes gepresst. Help! Help! Ich hab doch schon auf alles gepresst, nicht? Ich schätze mal, das ist das, dass man die Map bekommt, nicht? Jetzt bin ich verwirrt. Auf dem vielleicht? Ich bin mir gerade echt nicht sicher. Hallo, I need help. Help me. Ich habe auf alles gepresst, oder? Schon. Also müsste ich alle Sachen haben, um einen Step weiter zu gehen. Ich habe das Foto, also ich habe das Crime-Scene-Foto, ich habe die Map bekommen. Die Map ist das, was ich bekommen habe. Jetzt muss ich die vermutlich irgendwo benutzen. Die Frage ist, wo? Oder ergibt es überhaupt irgendwo Sinn? Oder muss ich nochmal pressen? Was bringt mir das, wenn ich nochmal presse? Help? Hallo, ich gehe mal kurz gucken. Ich bin gerade zu blöd. Mal wieder. Und ich würde behaupten, der Pen ist ja seiner. Damit kann ich aber nicht interagieren. Kann ich mit irgendwas anderem gerade interagieren? Wenn ich konnte bisher, ich durfte den Stift noch nicht mit ihm connecten. Ich muss schon mal alles durchlesen. Moment. Each shot was made of shot screens. There were plenty of gaps I could see inside through. Also, was mir das einfach sagt, ist, dass Ritch hätte auch genauso gut ein Messer durchstecken können. I don't know. Irgendwann was sitting on a stool when the student came in and started arguing with her. The athletic girl pulled out a knife, throwing the Englishman before stepped her back. My smoldering Jonas spirits burst into flames quick as a flash. I whipped out my camera ready to click. Pulled about the rough weave of one of the screens and poked the lens through for the perfect shot. I never once set foot in the hut nor spoken with the English woman. Moment. Warum hat sie den Stift, wenn er nie da drin war? Stift? Taras hat's auch. Meinst du Stift? Stift, dass er nie drin war? Er war nie drin. Er hat nicht mit ihr geredet. Aber sie hatte seinen Stift. Stift, okay. Keine Ahnung, ich stand gerade voll auf dem Schlauch, ey. Lieber Stift. Den Stift. Okay, dann gib mal. Nein, Stift! Ich meine, das hat das Symbol von ihm drauf. Musik ist weg. Scheint schon mal gut zu sein. Dankeschön für die Hilfe. Alle so Gehirnzellen anschalten. Kollektiv, wir sind alles, wir sind ein Collective Mind, Leute. Scheiße. Kollektiv sind wir schlau. Alleine nicht. Vielleicht, maybe. Mini Memos an. Until now, I've had a firm belief that newspapers are in the business of uncovering and publishing the truth. You're spot on there. The press doesn't lie, which is why... Ah, lol, the press doesn't lie. Witzig. Which is why I'm proud to wear the emblem of the Show You News on my arm. In a way, that's more Mini-Memoism. Das 5-Materia-Movement. 5-Materia-Movement. No. Also das Movement, das alles Penta meldet, oder wie? Oh, das ist noch viel witziger wegen gestern, ne? Checken jetzt halt die Leute nicht. Yes. 5-Materia-Movement. Wir sind ein Hive-Mind. Sadly, though, it seems the journalists who write for those papers don't always share the same passion for the truth.
What are you suggesting with those recrementory words, Counsel?
Mini-Memo-san, do you recognize this fountain pen? Ja, aber Bayern, wir haben Materia als Sub-Badge. Deswegen Materia-Movement, you know? Welche Materie sind das jetzt eigentlich? Ist das eine 7er-Materie? 6, 7, 6? 6. Ich glaube, das ist eine 6er-Materie. Frag mich nicht. Ich habe jetzt ein halbes Jahr Zeit, bis ich die nächste machen muss. Haha! Ups. Ah! This pen was found at the scene of Miss Brett's death. In fact, the murdered victim was gripping it in her hand as she died. What are you? If you look at the barrel of the pen, you'll notice that its owner's initials are engraved there. 7 Materia, ja, 7. Ja, 7. 7 Materia Movement. RM.
Yes, thank you for bringing that up, Counsel. The initials of the accused remember me.
No, it isn't. Is it a coincidence, I wonder, that your initials are also RM? Oh, we got him! No! Ah, got him! Write and memo RM. That's Horsedung! Pferdemist. Okay, Pferdemist. Can't you see? One of the central tenets of Mini-Memoism is being a pencil user. And yet, as the card will clearly be able to see on your right hand, there is a very obviously blue ink stain. It would appear that you must have rather carelessly left it somewhere recently. Your favorite fountain pen, that is. Horsey Horsedung! Fertiger Pferdemist. Nice. Mini-Memo-san. Is it not the case that before she died, you met with Giselle Brett in that beach hut? Oh, die Musik. Ist cute.
Why should we listen to this absurd nonsense? It's nothing but another excuse.
Die Musik ist supi. Exactly. Show you news will stand behind me all the way. I deny everything. There must be as many people with the initials RM as there are stars in the night sky. The defense has neither the time nor the inclination to count every star in the sky. Nice one, Susato. And there's no need anyway, because this pen has more to tell. Yes, there is another clue. A clue that undeniably proves who its owner really is. Ah! In that case, counsel, the defense will now show the court where this alleged clue is. Of course, Your Excellency. Also, the clue on this fountain pen that clearly reveals its owner's identity is. Du. Ha! Was ist denn das da? Kenn ich schon gar nicht. Ups. Nicht A! Ich muss X drücken, nicht A! Ah! Sorry. Ich drück mal wieder falsche Knöpfe, das ist normal. Got it! Got him! As well as the initials, there are also an emblem on this fountain pen. An emblem that you will, of course, recognize. Mini-Memo-san. Goodness me! It's the emblem of the Shoyu News! In other words, the owner of this pen is an employee of the Shoyu News, whose initials are RM. Suddenly the stars in the night sky don't seem so numerous, do they? Well, Mini-Memo-san, how do you respond? No! Order! Order! Explain yourself, witness! I don't have an explanation. So, this is how the mighty Supreme Court works, is it? Using coercive tactics to have well-meaning citizens reveal harmless secrets. I've used nothing but honest tactics. Alright then, fine. I won't try to hide it anymore. Yes, not long before that grim tragedy unfolded. I, a Shoyu News reporter on behalf of the public, conducted an interview with the English woman. An interview? You never mentioned this before. When exactly was this? As I said, it was before that evil little student girl showed her face in the hut. It couldn't have lasted more than 2 or 3 minutes, that's all. It was just a brief exchange. But it came to nothing, and many memoirs say the people don't pay their dues for unworthy news. However insignificant you deem it to be, this court cannot overlook the meeting between yourself and the victim. You will testify now under oath about the precise nature of this meeting and what transpired. Got it? Yes, alright, but on one condition. No condition. Condition? In all good conscience, I couldn't speak out alone about this. You need to call back the earlier witness, Soseki Natsumi-san. Oh no. No! I don't want him back. Soseki-san? Oh yes, according to my notes here, that man has a secret of his own. And brace yourselves, because it's not a harmless one, it's big. What? What? It's big. It's big. Many memoirism states that one man's secret is every other man's front page story. It does? Very well. I will grant the witness' request in this instance. Oh no. Officers, summon the earlier witness back to the stand. Soseki-san, hiding something? Und da ist ja wieder der nervöse Mann. Der nervöse Mann ist da! Der nervöse, paranoide Mann ist da. Ich muss mal was trinken. Holy shit. Hä? Yep. So. Jetzt geht's wieder besser mit Lesen. Lesen! I asked the English woman for an interview, but she declined, so I left the hut without making a fuss. Then, watching secretly from outside, I saw the woman being stabbed and the other witnesses come running. The detective realized that the victim still had a pulse, so he ran off to fetch help. Well, that's when this right man here asked the woman a very significant question. What? Ich mag so Seki, so, hä? Huh? Hä? But he didn't say anything about that in his testimony, which is why minimum wasm demands I reveal it now. What? What? I'm confusion. You mean to say the victim?
The victim regained consciousness.
Did what? Oh, well,
And when she did, you decided to ask her a question.
That's true. Yeah, yes. Soseki, what the fuck? Soseki, no. What the hell? Ich nehme euch mal ein bisschen näher ran zu mir. Dass ich ein bisschen gerade sitzen kann hier in meinem Quietschi-Stuhl.
Quietschi.
Quietschi-Stuhl. Quietsch. He did. And that's not all. The woman gave him a very definite answer. An answer that incriminates the accused. What? No, wow. Why? Stop making this harder. Panic Soseki.
This is preposterous. Why am I only hearing about this now? Why didn't you mention this before? You yokel hack!
It wasn't even a conversation! Yes, I posed a withering English rose a question. I don't deny it. But she could no longer speak. She was barely conscious even. Counsel for the defense, I expect the throughout cross-examination to be conducted here. This court must and will know the truth. Absolutely, Your Excellency. The report is claiming that Miss Brett implicated Ray somehow. What on earth could have happened in that hut? Oh boy. Ich merke, dass es anstrengend ist, wieder so viel vorzulesen mit so vielen Stimmen. Ace Attorney ist so viel vorlesen, ne? Ich müsste mal mehrere Personen haben, die da abwechselnd lesen, ne? So. Pressen wir mal wieder auf alles. Wir pressen mal wieder auf alles. You asked her for an interview, you say? Well, of course I did. I wanted to ask her about the incident she was involved in at the end of last year. About the case which Dr. John H. Wilson lost his life. That's not the way I phrase it. Many memoirs calls for straight talking. Why did you murder Dr. Wilson? Is how I put it to her. Ja gut. Dann verstehe ich aber auch, wenn sie sagte, ich will nicht antworten, Dankeschön. Warum hast du ihn gebracht? I don't know. I don't know. Weil, I don't know. Gib gute Answer. Please. Yes, that sort of talking is as straight as a ruler. Ask every question as if you're asking for a menu in a restaurant, I say. It's the best way. A veteran at the paper taught me that. And how did Miss Brett answer? With one simple phrase. Mystery is a woman's charm. Ja, warum hast du ihn umgebracht? Ja, das ist ein Mysterium. Du. Okay, I guess. Phew. That told me, so I was right out there. Really? Something about that doesn't quite seem to fit together. Leave every room as if you're waltzing in a dance hall, I say. It's the best way. It is. A veteran at the paper taught me that. It did. Pirouette rein.
Hold it!
That was very persistent of you, considering that Miss Brett had just turned you away. Persistence wins the prize, and many memoirists will tell you that. Let them think you left, then just when they lower their guard, that's when you swoop in for the scoop. Scooped. And the fruits of your labor are all too apparent in this telling photograph. Though I'm sure the young yokel student would rather not be reminded of this damning evidence. Actually, it's thanks to that photograph that we managed to identify this witness. And now that you found me, I'll tell you whatever you want to know. I've got nothing to hide. I'm sure.
Please, do go ahead, witness. The court is eager to hear what you have to say.
Try to stop me? There's a story to tell here, and I'm going to tell it. Okay. Also dann ist der Detective gekommen. Detective realized the director still had the pulse, so he ran off to fetch help.
Hold it!
So Hosonaga. And Soseki-san remained behind in the hut. That's right, yep. Our author friend here was a blabbering wreck, shaking all over from his head to his toes, mustache twitching, eyes bulging. Dass er Bleistift anleckt, das ist so ziemlich dumm. Ja, so what the fuck, why would you do this? What do you expect? You don't know the terrifying troubles that taunted me with traveling aboard. Back behind barefoot bars. They'll be coming for me surely. That's all I could think. I felt as though I were gasping for air, drowning in a sea of cold sweat. Okay. Poor Soseki-san. His experiences in London have scarred him deeply. And the world seems to close in around me. I quietly recited a prayer to Amida Buddha. Eternal emptiness, empty eternity. The end is coming for me, surely. Überdramatisch. No sutras are too resound in my courtroom, please. And now, we come to the crucial part. That's when it all happened. Okay. Okay, ich möchte gerne wissen, was für eine Frage das war. What question? What exactly did she say? Well now, you should hear that from the horse mouth, I think. Don't you, Mr. Writer Man?
Out with it, you yokel hack! What did you say to her? What did you say to the dying Englishwoman?
I don't remember. Well, in truth, I'd been catching crabs at the water's edge and building castles in the sand, you see. Okay. Well, the seaside is a place to be at leisure, I suppose, even for a grown man. But then, all of a sudden, from that little beach hut, a young girl's panic-stricken cries for help pierced the air. Ray. Ja, wünsche mir sich schon Synchro, weil es sehr viel zu lesen ist. I ran up to the beach to see what was happening, to find the defendant leaning over the collapsed victim. As soon as Inspector Hosonaga saw Miss Brett on the ground, he sprinted off to get help. And then, just a moment later, I heard a faint moan. A moan from the dead Englishwoman. I nearly jumped out of my skin. But what did you ask her, Soseki-san? I asked her. Who did this to you? Don't protract this any longer. How did the woman respond? By dying. She didn't say nothing in response. But... When in the stand, you will answer the questions asked of you unambiguously. Now, without evasion or reticence, I demand that you amend your testimony. Well! Dann sag's doch einfach. But she never replied. Okay, ich presse nochmal da drauf. Ja, Taris, genau das. Es ist eine Gewohnheit, weil er normalerweise mit Füller schreibt. Mit seinem Fountain Pen, ne? Aber ja. Das Problem ist, dass tatsächlich nasses Graphit schreibt nicht. Du kannst zum Beispiel auch mit einem nassen Graphit, also wenn du auf einem nassen Papier schreiben willst, wenn du einen Bleistift nimmst, vergiss es. Kannst du nicht machen. Das wird nicht funktionieren. Dafür ist halt auch, wenn du mit Graphit geschrieben hast auf einem Papier und du das wäschst, dann verschmiert es nicht. Weil es ist Graphit. Graphit interessiert Nässe nicht. So, pressen wir da drauf. So you tried to find out who the culprit was. He who asks the question is a fool for a minute. He who does not remains a fool forever. And having been labeled a criminal twice during my time in Great Britain, I was quick to make up my mind. Better to be a fool for a minute than remain a fool in prison forever.
However, you've indicated that the victim failed to respond. Is that correct?
I know why the Englishwoman said nothing. She was ignoring me because of my stupid mustache. Because I'm Japanese. What? Oh dear. Soseki-san has really developed a dislike for the English, it seems. Having read the report on his time in Great Britain, I can't say I'm surprised at his xenophobia. But the Englishwoman didn't ignore you at all. Did she, Mr. Writer-Man? Well, yes, alright, she did respond in a manner of speaking, I suppose. She just lifted a trembling finger and pointed in the direction of the defendant. I don't like that. Miss Brett pointed the finger at the defendant. Soseki-san, is that really true? It's not easy to stand here and say this, but when we first entered the beach hut, the Englishwoman was sprawled on the floor before us, with the student girl standing on the far side of her. And when I asked who did this to you, the Englishwoman summoned her last ounce of strength to point a trembling finger at the back of the hut. Which was, it can't be denied, in the direction of the student girl who stands accused today. Oder an die Person, die hinter dem Hut stand. Die Typ. No. Soseki-san, why on earth did you neglect to mention this in your original testimony? But fiddlesticks, I say! Fiddlesticks? There's a fiddle in the middle of my fiddle. Ich kann das nicht. This is not a British court of law. You will respond in Japanese. Yes, of course. The Englishwoman did point her finger towards the back of the hut. But... Hot butt. Hot butt? Ich mein was? But I was trembling and she was trembling and everything was a blur. And thinking about it, I feel as though perhaps she was pointing in a slightly different direction. Actually, no! Not slightly, in a very different direction to where the student girl was standing. To somewhere at the back of the hut where nobody was standing at all. Ah, danke Siggy. You mean that your memory of events and the direction of which the victim was pointing are both unclear? Yes, that's it. Unclear. Very, very unclear.
Your Excellency, surely this proves the matter beyond all reasonable doubt. Yes, the woman may barely have been conscious, and yes, perhaps her finger wavered slightly. But there can be no doubt that this was an attempt by the victim to confirm the identity of her assailant. Why? Because, as the court can see, there was no one other than the accused in the direction of the victim was pointing. It is now abundantly clear that no one beside the accused could possibly have committed this crime.
I am inclined to agree. And in the absence of any credible argument to the contrary, I believe we have now concluded this trial. No, no! Heh, heh, heh. The headline's writing itself. Stop it! A dashing lawyer's hopes dashed. 92 point across the whole page. We'll do an extra edition. This is a serious blow, Sato. Unless we're able to identify the true culprit and unsubstantiate our claim with evidence, the judge will give this ruling and the trial will be over. But that's impossible, Father. We don't even know how the crime was committed yet. Impossible though the task may seem, we have no choice. We must think back over everything we've learned thus far. Somewhere in all those details, I'm confident we'll find the clue we need. Ja, gleich spuck ich im Buch, da müssen die verlecken. Oh no. Ray gave us her account on how events unfolded in the defendant's antechamber before the trial resumed. She told us what happened in the precise moment Miss Brett was killed. She was standing up and falling over. Die Englische... das lese ich. Wie gesagt, ja, ich muss nicht lesen. Listening to what I was saying, and then, a moment later, she suddenly got to her feet. Before collapsing on the floor in front of me. Knife in her back. How could Miss Brett have been stabbed in the back in a beach hut that was empty but for herself and Ray? Somewhere amid all the information we've gathered so far, there must be an answer to that question. Ja, es war ja nur... Mein Internet ist heute wieder kack, ne? I take it then that the defense has nothing further to add.
So, the Galadiocal student luck finally runs out. I can't say I'm surprised.
In that case, I'm ready to deliver my final verdict on this matter. This is a crucial turning point now. If I can't establish what really happened, it's over. Where was the real culprit hiding? And how did he or she stab the victim? Ich meine, ich weiß theoretisch, ich meine, man konnte einfach durch das Hutch, also durch die Wand. Oh boy, bin ich heute müde. Sorry.
I'm tired, Bean.
Okay, okay. Also von mir aus hinter dem Stuhl, hinter der Wand, ne? Seht ihr auch so. I know how. ESC was too late. Ja, Alter. Deshalb bis morgens um 1 die fucking Zahlen runterlesen. Das macht es doch schneller. Your Excellency, I respectfully ask you to postpone your education for the time being. Oh? To what end, Counsel? Gute Nacht, ja. The defense would like to present the court with an alternative theory. An alternative theory that can explain who the victim was actually trying to implicate with her dying gesture.
Objection! An alternate theory? Ha! None exists!
Objection! There was someone else present at the scene who could have committed this crime.
What? and the victim, Miss Brett, tried to reveal who it was to those around her at the time. By mustering all her remaining strength and pointing a trembling finger in the killer's direction. This is fiction! Fantasy! Internet! Holy shit. Very well, as you seem so sure of yourself, Counsel, I am prepared to hear your alternative theory. So, young Ryutaro Naruhodo. Yes, Your Excellency? You will present your latest theory to the court by means of this plan. At the moment the victim was stabbed, where exactly are you proposing the culprit was concealed? Here? Behind the wall. Nee, er stirbt immer noch kurz zwischendurch. Das nervt mich aber. Es ist nicht so krass, dass ich komplett Dings verliere. Dass er komplett buffert die ganze Zeit, aber immer mal wieder. Es nervt. So, dahin, würde ich mal behaupten. Naruhodo-san would never give up. And I am a Naruhodo now. You are! Hat sie geheiratet? Ich meine, was? Moment. What? The true culprit who fatally stabbed Miss Brett was concealed in this location here. But it was. Are you mad, Counsel? Your suggestion the culprit was outside the hut. Yes? What? Order! 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 But Student Lawyer Naruhodo-san Esquire! Oh no. That's again. That makes no sense at all! You've just pointed out the exact spot where I was hiding to get my scoop snap! Oh, I did! What an exciting and thrilling discovery! But I didn't see any suspicious individuals loitering about. I can swear to that. Obviously, if the culprit had been outside the hut, there is no way that he or she would have stabbed the victim who was inside the hut. Nein, ich habe niemanden gesehen. Actually, Prosecutor Uchi, there is a way. Ah! And in point of fact, the defense can provide evidence strongly suggesting that is precisely the way Miss Brett was killed. You're all bluffing! You're bluffing! The defense assertion is clearly too fantastical for the court to comprehend. You will need to give us more guidance, Counsel. What piece of evidence corroborates your theory that the victim was stabbed from outside the hut? Das Bild? Kann ich das Bild... Meint ihr, das geht, wenn ich das Bild zeige als ein... it was... Ne, zwar, warte, Moment. Ich meine, hier, ne? Sieht man es auch. Da hat einen schönen Spalt, ne? Den habe ich ja vorher schon mal ausgepointet. Habe ich ja gesagt, da ist ein Spalt drin. Ich glaube nicht, dass sie das annehmen werden. Ich hoffe... Nee, ich denke nicht. Jeder Spalt! Spalt gesagt. Ich meine, was? The original photographic print of the crime scene? Yes, it's clearly visible in this print. The trace of the fatal thrust that was delivered from outside the beach hut. Do you take us for fools? There's no hint of any such thing. Sorry, Taris. I'm not sure that everyone present would agree. Someone at least appears to have noticed what it is that I'm referring to. It is what it is. Counsel, once again, I must call on you to be explicit for the court. Where on this photograph is the trace of stabbing, which you claim took place from outside the hut?
There it is!
Take that!
Look closely, just here. Oh. Plötzlich anderes Fotograf. Die kommen oft. I'm sorry. Schieb alles auf Nase. Das ist Nase schuld, dass ich das jetzt auch im Stream mache, you know. The screen at the back of the hut. You can see the effects of a blade having been forced through the reeds. Ah! No! I can't! I can't see any such thing! Bist du blind? Vielleicht sollte er mal nicht so viel schwitzen, da würde er auch was durch seine Brille sehen. It's true that the hut in question had 4 walls, as you'd expect, however. By parting the reeds, a knife blade could easily penetrate them. Ha, penetrieren. Oh. This is extraordinary. Yes. The true culprit actually stabbed the victim from outside the beach hut. Ah. And of everyone present at the scene, there's only one person who could have done that. Only one person who was directly outside the hut when Miss Brett was killed. Right in Many-Moses-san, it could only have been you. Hey! Okay, now. This preposterous idea leaves me almost speechless. Speechless? Ja, so spricht man das aus. Speechless. Just look at the photograph again. The victim lies almost exactly in the center of the beach hut, does she not? Are we to assume, as part of this partial scenario, that the assailant was a knife thrower? No. Objection. No, of course not. We're not! Which is a fact! If you recall the testimony of the defendant about the events just before the victim's death, I confronted Miss Brett, but she just sat on a stool at the back of the hut, smiling sweetly at me as if she knew she was untouchable. A stool? Das ist ein Stuhl, ja. Weißt du, was ein Stuhl ist? Have another look at the photograph. Wo steht der Stuhl? The slit in the reed screen would align perfectly with the back of a person who was sitting on a stool. My word. So, in fact, the victim was killed whilst sitting on a stool by a stab wound to her back delivered through the reed screen. Ah! Having been attacked, Miss Brett rose to her feet instinctively. But then, unable to speak, she collapsed on the floor in the middle of the hut. Before the defendant, Membami-san, upheld eyes. And that, Your Excellency, is the truth of what happened on the beach that day. Das müssen wir nur gut beweisen können. Der hat bestimmt eine gute Ausrede jetzt. By your silence, Many-Memo-san, I take it that you don't deny the charge. Oh, he will. This is absurd! Er wird das so denyen, das ist doch klar. Es wäre kein Ace Attorney without, right? That will do. It would appear that we have a tacit admission of guilt from the witness. Accordingly, this court has successfully established the truth of this matter, which means that the defendant, Membani-san, is innocent of the crime. Oh, thank goodness. I finally made him cave. I must say, I've never been more proud. No, this can't be. The Aochi clan can't. What of my growth? My growth of hope?
It was all a potion. I can't accept this. I won't.
I see no reason for the continuance of this trial. I will therefore move to conclude proceedings by... Well, this is all very convenient. This is how this highest court in our mighty empire delivers justice, is it? Suppressing well-meaning citizens' freedom to speak and branding them as criminals. But we've established that the victim was stabbed from outside the hut, through the reed screen walls. And no one but you was in place at the time to have his hand on the hilt of the blade. It's a perfectly logical deduction. So, your argument hinges on the location of whoever stabbed the Englishwoman, does it? Well, it seems a little irrelevant now. Irrelevant? Where she was stabbed, how she was stabbed. It doesn't matter. I mean, whether she was stabbed at all makes no difference if you think about it. After all, this trial's already shown the whole thing hinges on something else. Okay. What are you talking about? Brace yourself, little man. I'm talking about the fact that everything's changed. Because of the dirt you dug up. What? What? Enough obscurity. Explain yourself, witness. What's to explain? I'm taking about the poison, of course. The poison? Let's ask the professor for a comment on the situation, shall we? I understand that the deadly poison you were developing was stolen from your laboratory, correct? And it's been shown that this poison was administered to the victim, Miss Brett, is that right? That is correct. The unusual constriction of the victim's pupils are a sure sign that this particular poison was used. I see. So, presumably that means that the victim already had the poison in her body before she was stabbed. Ja, aber es war vermutlich im Stift. Given that her pupils were clearly constricted, it seems highly likely, yes. If she had been dead already, the poison could not have circulated in her blood.
Ah, how refreshing to hear the argument of a metropolitan mind. Precisely, it matters not a jot who stabbed whom, in whose back, and with whose blade.
It doesn't?
Because, quite simply, the Englishwoman's life was taken not by the knife, but by the poison.
Objection! But that can't be explained by the poison being on the blade, as already... Das ist nicht auf dem Blade.
Taha! Forgotten already, have a yokel? There in these very proceedings, the laboratory of the professor at your side assisted in providing that the blade of the weapon used to attack the victim had no trace of poison on it whatsoever.
So let me get this down in the facts, as skillfully established by the defense in this trial. Turn out to be a headline-making red herring. Is that about right? Well... Order! But where does this leave us? How, in that case, did the poison enter the victim's body? There is an undeniable obvious answer to that. The radium most likely imbibed. Was bedeutet imbibed? Imbibed.
You mean she drank it? Have another look at the photograph here, as you can see. A bottle of carbonated water and a glass had been knocked onto the sandy floor of the beach hut. The poison could have been slipped into either. So somebody made Miss Brett drink it. Well, what do you know? Look at those dashing eyes. This will make a great front page shot. Hey, why the bewitching stare? After all, I'm the last person you should be looking at. Oh no, you're the right person to look at. It would make no sense at all that I poisoned the woman, would it? I mean, that's been established already.
Hold it!
Established? What are you talking about? Don't tell me you've forgotten. That's a little hard to believe, given that the person who established it was you. Me? What on earth does he mean? Oh, well, let me capture those white eyes. This is prime press fodder. This is. It would seem that this trial is not destined to end yet after all. I hereby call upon the witness to give further testimony. That's great, that is. Let me get a shot of that magnificent beard, Your Excellency. You claim it should be impossible that you were the one responsible for administering the poison to the victim. You will explain to the court in your testimony the basis upon which you make such a claim. I'm a journal, I'm a man. I've never tried to run or hide from anything in my life. And I'm not about to start now, because that's minimalism. For a brief moment I thought I'd illuminated the truth, but it slipped right back into obscurity again. Just where is this trial going to take us? Ah, mein Hals. Ah. So viel reden, hey Lab. Das sind ja schon fast 2 Stunden. Oh yes, I established the Englishwoman. I stabbed the Englishwoman. And it's that very fact that proves I'm innocent. Because why would I have bothered to stab the woman if I already poisoned her? When I heard the student girl and that pompous English mother arguing, it got my goat. If the courts weren't going to punish Brett for what she did, someone else would have to see justice done. Er gibt zu, dass er sie umgebracht hat, aber nicht, dass er sie umgebracht hat. Was? Oh boy. Warum werden die Fälle immer so kompliziert? Hey. So, you admit it then? That everything happened as I described? That you are the one who stabbed Miss Brett in the back through the read screen? You can blame this miserable country of yours. Ours. A country that bows to the pressure of foreign powers and lets murderers walk free. What kind of future can a country like that have? That's why I did it. I did what our pathetic leaders didn't have the guts to do. Slap bang in the middle of that charming lady's back. I plunged the blade of sweet justice right in there. He's crazy! Whatever. It would still be attempted murder. As someone who spends his life seeing that the truth is told. I feel reality really awful about giving false information in my testimony before. But as it turns out, there was somebody else who had it in for the victim and got to her before me. That's right, you guessed it. That pretty little student girl. Now there's a woman after my own heart. You're implicating Ray again. She's the one who gave the poison to the Englishwoman and ended her pitiful existence. And suddenly, snap! This journal here is off the hook. No, you're not really.
The argument is sound, certainly. If the witness had administered the poison himself, he need only have waited for it to take effect. Subsequently, stabbing the victim in the back would have been entirely nonsensical.
And therefore, this report had nothing to do with the poisoning.
Yes, it's all quite logical. No, actually, no. No. Hilfe. It's not logical. Logical machen müsste ich auch mal wieder. Schlange her. That's. I'm glad you've all seen the light. Justice at last. This is unbelievable. And after I made such a progress with proving his guilt, is he going to get away with it now? Pop. Think of Kazuma-sama, Naruto-san. They've never stopped looking for a way forward until the judge's final gravel. Very well then, counsel. Proceed with what I assume to be your final cross-examination in this trial. Yes, Your Excellency. Okay. Ich bin heute einfach nicht ganz da mit dem Brain, so. I'm sleepy. Okay, kommen wir jetzt. Okay. Yes, I stabbed the Englishwoman in its but that very fact that proves I'm innocent. Because why would I have bothered to stab the woman if I'd already poisoned her? Aber so wie er das hier sagt, klingt es, als ob es ein im Affekt gewesen wäre. So wie er das hier sagt, ist das Stabbing war im Affekt. So. Ist es dann nicht unabhängig davon? You know, ob er jetzt sie hier gepoisont hat oder nicht, aber wenn er sie im Affekt dann sticht, dann ist es doch ein, ja, I don't know. Dann ist es irrelevant. Es ist wirklich irrelevant, dass sie vorher poisoned wurde, wenn er einfach aus Wut sie dann gestabbt hat. Man kann er sie auch gepoisoned haben und dann ist er einfach aus Wut, hat er sie dann gestabbt. Press mal da drauf. Press the idiot! Ich presse ihn. Ich presse ihn aus! What exactly were they arguing about? About what happened in that restaurant 9 months ago, that's what. The student girl was laying into the Englishwoman for killing her beloved mentor, Dr. Wilson. Yes, John H. Wilson. A professor of medicine, invited here from England by Professor Mikotoba, no less. Right, but the Englishwoman just cheered. Cheered? Her case was to be heard by the British consular court in Shanghai, however. There is little doubt that she would simply have been acquitted and sent back to her homeland a free woman. I was eating that student girl up inside, you could see it. I really felt for her. Oh. Hey, Ray. I can't. I can't stand here and listen to this tripe. Ray. Young girl, you stand accused here. You can't just blurt out whenever you feel like it. No, you can't. Sorry, but I'm in the middle of some very important testimony here. Just keep quiet and listen. But this awful man is making all of this up. Susato, please, you have to make them listen. Return to the dock at once, Membami-san. We are in the middle of a cross-examination.
Hold it!
Your Excellency, please, I implore you. The journalist is clearly not a trustworthy witness. Exactly. He's a filthy, rotten, black-hearted, bigoted, dirty, great peeping Tom. Peeping Tom, was?
Whoa, take it easy there.
Please, I really think the court should hear what the defendant has to say. Your Excellency, I see no need whatsoever to entertain the accused's remark.
Bitte, Judge. I will grant the request of the defense.
But, Your Excellency!
This is likely to be the final cross-examination of these proceedings. As such, I believe it would be ill-advised to stifle the defendant's obvious concerns. So, with recognizing that this contravenes regular protocol, I hereby call upon the defendant to speak.
Oh. Thank you so much, Your Excellency.
Ah, Pipi Tom ist ein Spanner. So.
Aber er ist doch nur ein Paparazzi. It was nothing to do with Dr. Wilson. We were discussing the stolen poison. Okay, dann presse ich einfach mal da drauf. The stolen poison that killed the victim, you mean? I suspected her of being the one to steal it. I mean, just think about how she killed Dr. Wilson.
That's true. Additionally, Miss Brett certainly had knowledge of the new poison. But surely it would be no easy task to steal a highly secret toxin being developed for the government. Indeed, all visitors to the laboratory are thoroughly searched when they leave. Even if a thief managed to avoid being seen by myself or a colleague, getting the poison out would be very difficult. That's true. I pestered Professor Mokotoba until he agreed to show me the poison when I visited his laboratory. But as I left, I was searched from top to tail. Miss Brett rather bluntly revealed the existence of the toxin we'd been developing, you see. And since Suseki-san expressed such an interest in it, I felt unable to refuse. Obviously, I gave nothing away other than the fact that it was an extremely potent substance. I'm very ashamed of myself. It's just that I've had a singularly terrible experience with a deadly poison. I wanted to look my old enemy in the eye. Surely you can understand that. To find out it was my suspicious. If my suspicions were true, I confronted Miss Brett about the poison. I told her that if there were to be an incident involving it somehow, it wouldn't be just the university. The military would be dragged into it. The whole government even. It would be a complete disaster. And how did Miss Brett respond to your concerns? She just curled those beautiful lips of hers and said she didn't know the first thing about it. In English, actually. Ah, yes. Minimimo-san, one small question if you don't mind. I do mind. Can't you see I'm busy? Clearly, you were outside the beach hut listening in whilst the defendant and Miss Brett were conversing. Presumably then, it was you who wrote this article about what you'd heard. Exclusive deadly poison stolen from Humane Medical Research Laboratory. The story was published in this morning's edition of Shoyu News. The details are too accurate for it to have been written by anyone else. Sorry, I don't know what you're talking about. Definitiv nicht. Yes, look at this. The entire article. It's almost what I said to Miss Brett, word for word. Ah! Well, Minimimo-san. As a journal and as a citizen of a free country, I don't have to reveal my sources.
That's the founding principle of mini-memoism.
You're a fucking coward.
Father's clearly right about this. That reporter did write that article and he based it on what he overheard from outside the hut.
Okay. The reporter. Sorry, tut mir leid, müde.
Reporter Minnie Memo's son based it on information he gleaned by eavesdropping. So that's what it was all about. You were trying to cover up the fact that you were listening in. That's why you came up with that stinky story about me arguing with her.
Shut up! My stories never stink. You stinky stories.
Look, whatever you say, little girl, it doesn't alter the facts. Your Excellency, there's something I want to say, and I want it to go on record.
Tut mir leid. Ich will nicht, dass ihr einschlaft. I'm sorry. Oh, ich bin einfach müde. Ich bin so langweilig, alle schlafen ein. Wie schön. Auch ich.
Very well, you may amend your final testimony.
All gut. So, schon wie Harry Podcast, ne? Hab ich gehört. Kati immer so zum Einschlafen.
Die Stimme erhebe!
Kann die dann auch immer noch einschlafen, wenn ich schreie? Ich will nicht schreien. Der ist außer Puste.
The point is, if you'd poisoned someone, there'd be no reason to then go and stab the person as well.
Er sagt nochmal das Gleiche. So why would I have bothered stab the woman if I already poisoned her? The point is, if you'd poisoned someone, there'd be no reason to then go and stab the person as well. Mein Windwaker-Stream war gut für Nappies. Ja, das habe ich auch mitbekommen. Ich glaube, Kitty ist auch eingepennt dabei. Während Wind Waker so, ja, gute Nacht. Okay. Irgendwann mal. Zumindest nicht beim letzten Stream. Der war doof. Wie waren eigentlich die Nachfolger von Wind Waker? War es Spirit Tracks und dann Phantom Hourglass oder war es erst Phantom Hourglass und dann Spirit Tracks? Die waren DS-Spiele, ne? Waren das DS-Spiele? Ich glaube, das waren DS-Spiele. Should be. Ach, ich muss mal kurz strecken. Oh, boy. Juff. Phantom, okay. Phantom Hourglass und dann Spirit Tracks. Ist der direkte Nachfolger, ja. Und ich meine, Spirit Tracks spielt im gleichen Universum. Also, das ist ein bisschen später dann, glaube ich. Ich mochte den alten Charakter aus. Also, ich habe das Spiel auch nicht wirklich gespielt. So, just. Einfach, dass ihr das wisst. Aber ich mochte den alten Charakter daraus. Den Captain. Der ist sehr lustig. Ich mag den. Ich finde den lustig. Vor allem das erste Mal, dass er Lefring tritt. Ich mochte diese Szene. Ich habe die nämlich gesehen und ich war so richtig geil. Okay, weiter im richtigen Spiel. Hallo.
Perhaps you doubted the efficiency of the poison and sought to make sure your victim would die.
That's Horstang. Du bist Horstang.
What? That would be like pouring pepper on your Chinese ramen before you'd even tasted it. Completely reckless.
Ah, du bist doch wach und hörst doch Podcast. Ja gut. Aber du musst ja auch auf Fleisch aufpassen. Also. Auf dein... Oh. Macht mich voll neidisch. Ich möchte auch gegrillten Stuff haben. Ich hätte was wir immer machen, wenn wir grillen. Wir machen dann immer einen Tomatensalat mit Mozzarella. Oh, das hätte ich gerne. Ich will Tomatensalat mit Mozzarella, please. Du hattest einen Game-Breaking-Bug. No! Oh, that's sad.
Although, it might surprise you to learn that I am a bit of an impetuous pepper pourer as it happens. Once the victim had taken the poison, she would have been only minutes away from death. And yet this man then proceeded to stab her in the back as well. There has to have been a good reason for that. If it was the reporter who gave the poison to Miss Brett, then clearly he must have done it prior to Ray entering the hut. Yes, it's undeniable.
Oh, das Automatenmozzarella, no! Oh. Der NPC ist nicht weggegangen. Och nö. Also basically, wie wenn jetzt ich Makoris nicht gefunden hätte. Aber der Bug war ja bekannt, so von dem her. Aber basically so ein Scheiß, so. NPC, einfach ein NPC, der nicht da ist oder der noch da ist, der nicht da sein sollte. F, das ist blöd.
There was one very crucial change in the situation. Sorry? What change? The reporter overheard the conversation between Ray and the Englishwoman. Hä?
Mit Basilikum, ja. Jetzt will ich Tomatensalat. Oh, ich mache mir, glaube ich mache mir am Montag Tomatensalat für Mittagessen. Ich habe voll Bock auf Tomatensalat, danke. Tomatensalat. Geil. Muss ich aber auf Arbeit gucken, ob wir da noch, ob wir Öl haben und ob wir bei der kann ich sagen, nicht Basilikum. Den Essig. Ich hab Worte. Fuck me. Mir fällt gerade. Balsamico! Danke! Mein Gott, mein Kopf ist gerade irgendwo, aber nicht hier. Balsamico, das, ja. Ja. Ich bin durch. Ich weiß nicht, was ist, hä?
No, that's when Many Memos-san first found out the exact nature of the poison he'd used.
Ich habe immer noch... Kann ich irgendwie... Kann ich nicht irgendwie gucken, ob nicht auf dem Stift das wäre? Nee. Ich bin verwirrt. Hilfe. Was macht das Poison? Ich habe vergessen, was das Poison macht. Was macht das Poison? Ich bin verwirrt. Ah, das ist genau das Problem, dass es viel zu lange her ist. Ich habe es nicht mehr im Kopf.
If the victim had unwillingly taken the poison already, the reporter would have had no reason to stab her. On the face of it, that logic sounds entirely reasonable.
Oder muss das Poison wieder im Blutkreislauf gelangen? Fragezeichen. Oh scheiße, ich weiß es nicht mehr.
But there's no question that this man was responsible for Miss Brett's murder. If we could think of a plausible explanation as to why he might have stabbed her even after the poisoning, I feel sure that everything would drop into place. That's what we should be looking for.
Yes, I agree. And in order to do that, I must try to glean more information. Ich bin verwirrt. Einen Moment. Ich muss mal ganz kurz auf den Klo. Ganz kurz Klopause. Wo ist mein Pause-Screen? Da ist mein Pause-Screen. Haha. Hello. Oh. Ah, Moment. Meine Haare richten. Oh, Ripsen sind jetzt nur zum Fertigmachen. Geil. Schick da mal Bild rüber. Okay, im Artikel, das heißt, er muss gewusst haben, was das macht. Frage ist jetzt, wo wir das brauchen. Das ist die Frage, ist es das hier oder ist es bei dem anderen, wo steht? Also warum würde sie steppen? Das andere wurde ja erst geändert, nachdem wir bewiesen haben, dass er wusste, was gemacht. Was das Gift macht. Also müsste das... The point is, if you poison someone, there'd be no reason to then go and stab the person as well. Müsste das ja hier sein, ne? Ihr weiß, was das Gift macht. Dann hier der Poison-Artikel. Wenn sie gut aussehen und sonst nicht. No. Okay. Probier mal.
Objection!
Well. Okay, Musik ist weg. Schon mal nicht schlecht. I can think of one reason. What? But before I explain, I'd like you to confirm something for the court. Did you glean all the information for this newspaper article from what you've overheard outside the hut? Of course he did! There can't be no questions of that. After all, when we were all in the laboratory together, we all were told is that it is a terrible toxin. And there is one more important fact to consider. According to the witness, Membami-san's verbal attack against the victim began as soon as she entered the hut. In other words, it would have been impossible for her to have slipped the poison into Miss Brett's drink.
Objection!
Where are you going with this, counsel?
Minimemo-san has made it quite clear that he observed every single thing that happened in the beach hut. If the defendant had somehow found an opportunity, this man would have seen it. Which means that Miss Brett wouldn't have imbibed the poison whilst the defendant was present. In fact, it must have been administered to her before Mimbami-san entered the hut. Yes, very articulately put. When I walked into the hut, I immediately started to press Miss Brett about the poison. At which point, Minimemo-san overheard some worrying information.
Worrying information? What worrying information?
The information which he subsequently included in his newspaper article, namely, that the poison was being developed by strict secrecy and that it couldn't be readily obtained. Absolutely, in fact, that's quite an understatement. The only possible place it could come from is my lab. And furthermore, anyone afflicted by the poison would exhibit telltale signs in death. The extreme constriction of the pupils, yes, it's quite stark when you see it. There are other poisons that show similar symptoms, but not among new substances that are undetectable. In other words, it would be clear that the victim's life had been ended by the use of this particular poison, which would reduce the number of suspects to only a handful of people. Everyone in my laboratory is aware of the unique properties of the toxin we've been developing. None of them would be foolish enough to attempt to use it for some nefarious deed. Membami-san being no exception. Therefore, we can conclude that whoever administered this unique poison to the victim was a layperson, unaware of its telltale properties. Das heißt, vermutlich wäre es noch viel schlimmer geworden. In other words, someone like you rated many memo. Weil vermutlich wäre das ein qualvoller Tod gewesen. Ne? It was you who stole the poison from the laboratory that day. And it was you who administered it to the unwitting victim. But you quickly realized that was a terrible mistake. Because the poison caused such unusual symptoms and was so traceable. Oder wie? Nee, wollte nur nicht, dass es... As you listed in from the far side of the beach hut, Thin's walls, you learned of these facts. But you'd already given the victim the poison at that point. It was too late. Ja, einzigartig eben. Wenn du dann alle Sachen, alle Eigenschaften bzw. alle Folgen davon zusammenzählst, wäre es halt klar gewesen, was für ein Gift das war. Und so nur die Pupils wären so, ja gut, könnte ja jedes gewesen sein, also viele gewesen sein. So you hatched a plan to disguise your mistake. A plan that involved stabbing the victim in the back through the reed screen.
Objection!
But what good could I possibly do?
Isn't it obvious, Counsel? The plan was to kill Miss Brett before the poison could take effect. Once in the blood, the poison causes the onset of pupil constriction. But he had hoped to precipitate the victim's death before that happened, hadn't he? Exactly. Because without any revealing signs of the new secret poison's use, no one would ever have suspected. This is extraordinary. Yes, the effect of the poison meant it would be too easily identified, so the killer had to mask its use. Which he attempted to do by plunging a knife into the middle of the victim's back. So, mit was für Ausrede kommt er jetzt? Order! 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 The argument presented is sound. The court is satisfied with what it warrants consideration. Does the prosecution have a counter-argument it wishes to put forward? Ich meine, Punkt ist halt, wir haben das Serum noch nicht gebraucht, deswegen denke ich, es kommt bestimmt noch was.
Well, there are a number of... I mean, yes, I counter completely.
Objection!
The prosecution's evasive response clearly shows that in much the same way as he nurtures the remnants of his top knot, he is clinging to lost hope.
Lost hope?
Warum hat er keine Voice bekommen? Ja, was hast du zu sagen? Nicht der Hut! You pathetic, useless, fallen samurai.
Fallen? Who are you calling fallen?
I don't need a counter-argument. Oh, rude? What are you talking about? I should be blatantly obvious. I stole the poison, you say. Gave it to the victim, you say. Stabbed her, you say. Lots of fine theories. But I don't need a counter-argument, because you don't have an argument yourself. Where's your evidence? Yes, you make it all sound so plausible, don't you? But without evidence, it means nothing. Whereas I base my news on facts. Facts? What do you mean? Explain yourself. I mean, what the professor said earlier in this trial. It's all here, in my head, many memos. Every word, every slip of the tongue, all noted. That's what the show you news is famous for. It's the power of the printed word. Er hat eine Kamera. All visitors are throughoutly searched. Hätte sie in der Kamera verstecken können. Im Stift. Nicht in der Kamera, im Stift. Habe ich doch vorher gesagt, im Stift könnte das Gift sein. Das ist ein Stift. How's that then? Blowing the story wide open. See? I, writer Many Memo, a mere reporter from the Shoyu News. Couldn't possibly have stolen the poison from the professor's laboratory. Stift! Wie beweise ich, dass es der Stift ist? Kann ich den Stift jetzt testen? But there can't be any questions of it. He must have stolen the poison that day. He stole it and used it to kill. And if that's the case, as you've identified, the poison itself is the definite evidence we need. Because whoever stole it from the laboratory that day is the true culprit here. What's your point? You annoyingly handsomely country bumpkin. My point is, there is one way that you, Mini Memo-san, could have stolen the poison that day. Wenigstens kommt sie selber drauf. I have heard enough verbal conjecture now, thank you. What's the court must be shown as evidence. What proof do you have that this witness stole the poison of the day in question? Stift, 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 Stift! So crazy. Stift!
Take that!
The proof, Your Excellency, is this fountain pen. A fountain pen? How can that possibly be relevant? Ja, selbst findet es oh, handsome. Everyone would be like, oh, handsome boy. Ich liebe es. These magical pens somehow seem to have enough ink to write many thousands of kanji characters. I believe they arrived in our country for the first time some 15 years ago now.
Bah! I swear, by a weasel's hair, calligraphy brush and nothing else, these newfangled pens are merely a fad.
Well, as a forward-thinking man of words, obviously, I love my fountain pen. Fun. Stuck up a subcon. Ich verstehe dieses Wort nicht. Of sumptuous ink, and one's work is awash with words in the blink of an eye. Okay, that's right. Fountain pens have a small reservoir in the barrel, into which ink is sucked up through the nib of the pen in order to write with later.
What does all this talking of sucking up ink have? Ah!
Suck. And just as it's possible to suck ink into the reservoir, it's also possible to eject it through the nib again, of course. My word, can this really be? Well, Many Memo-san. When you saw the deadly poison before your eyes in the laboratory that day, you used your fountain pen, your very lifeblood, to steal some of it, didn't you? By siphoning the poison up through the nib and into the pen's reservoir. Nib.
Objection!
More absurdity! That never happened!
True, we've heard that there were procedures in place to prevent thefts like this from the laboratory. But would anyone have thought to look inside the fountain pen of all places? No, I'm a little ashamed to say that for fear of offending our guests, such a detailed search would not have been conducted. Well, this is quite startling, I must say. I remind the court that this pen was found in the clutches of the victim when she died. In other words, it was dropped at the scene by Many Memo-san. So, the crucial question is, when exactly was the pen dropped? Or are you suggesting? The natural conclusion is that in your haste to act whilst the victim was distracted for a moment, you dropped the pen after you emptied the poison from it into her glass.
Objection!
There could be any number of alternative explanations. For example, the witness could have been using his pen to write down details of his conversation with the victim. And when shocked by one of her outrageous answers, the pen fell from his quivering hand.
Klar. No, that can't be. If it was, how do you explain why the pen was devoid of ink?
What?
As you can see for yourself, if you examine the evidence, there would appear to be no ink present in the reservoir. What newspaper reporter goes to interview someone with nothing in his pen? No, the pen was dropped after the poison that filled its reservoir had been emptied into the victim's glass. Witness, what do you have to say in your defense? So this is how our modern justice system works, is it? So what if the ink in my pen runs dry? So what if my pencil snaps? I can always claw my way back into the game. I have plenty in reserve. Don't throw... Ha! Soll ich auch gucken, wie der einfach Stift nach mir wirft. You claim I sucked the poison up into my pen. That's why speculation, nothing more. If you thought you could bring down a fine, upstanding citizen with a trick like that, think again. It looks as though it's going to take one final decisive blow to finish this matter. As I see it, the situation is now very simple. It rests upon whether or not this witness did indeed steal the poison on the day in question. And therefore, it all depends upon whether or not the defense can prove that he did with evidence. No such evidence could possibly exist.
Objection!
Ich habe immer noch das Antidot, nicht das Antidot. Memo-san, this is how our modern justice system works. What? In the courtroom, evidence is everything. Something you would do well to remember. Because we are well past the point of speculation at this stage, I assure you. Sato, voll gut. Very well then, I call upon the defense to present the aforementioned evidence. This is it then. This will be the final piece in the puzzle. The Katalysator. The defense can prove by means of this item that it was the witness's pen that was used to steal the poison.
Take that!
Counsel, what is that bottle? This bottle contains a unique chemical reagent that can identify the poison in question. Ah! Yes, that poison is an entirely new synthesis of alkaloids. Oh shit, warum hast du Probleme, das zu sagen? Developed by my colleagues and I. It would be impossible to detect traces of it by any other method. Or, from another perspective, simply with this chemical reagent, anybody at all could check for traces of the poison. Reagent? What? One drop of the contents of this bottle on the tip of your fountain pen, Memo-san, is all it will take to solve this case beyond all reasonable doubt. No, you can't. I won't. Your crimes are bad enough, but at least know when to admit defeat. Your Excellency, the defense requests permission to carry out the test on the fountain pen at once. Ja! Ui, okay, was? Nein, nicht die Kamera, nein! This isn't my fault. The Empire is trying to... I took up arms by the pen, justice, righteousness, and maybe the many. Okay.
Susato, with me!
I'm here. I'm there. What the fuck are they doing? Dude.
Did I do it right? That was a Susato takedown, wasn't it?
Not quite. That was a Ryotaro takedown. Well, fine, I guess, sure. Yay! I think we won. Did we win? We win! Meine Stimme ist am Arsch. Ah! The instant the first drop of the reagent touched the nib of the fountain pen, it was clear to everyone present. Dann leuchtet's lila! When I saw it there in the lab, the poison, the devil got a hold of me and I decided to do it on a whim. I excused myself and emptied all the ink down the sink in the bathroom, washing the reservoir out carefully. And then you waited for an opportunity to suck up some of the poison, didn't you? Into your fountain pen. Yes, that's right. Answer me one thing, Minimimo-san. Why did you steal it? For what purpose? Isn't it obvious? To find out what it was made of and expose it in an article. I mean, it was a secret project after all. Too juicy for a journal like me to pass up.
Then why did the Englishwoman end up dead?
I went into that hut intending to quiz her on the situation, that's all. As a reporter. A known killer enjoying full freedom, evading justice by leaving the country. I told her what I thought about it. And she just laughed in my face.
Oh, what's this? A Far Eastern caveman purporting to practice journalism? Really? You must learn the difference between reporting and listening at doorways, you ignorant plebeian.
What did you call me?
This country, with its pretensions to a justice system, to a free press, it's really very depressing. You see our superior ways in the West, yet you lack the mental capacity to emulate them. Get out of here, you oaf. Get out and crawl back into the cave you came from.
Okay, that's very rude. That's very rude. That's when I remembered about the deadly poison I happened to have in my pen at the time. It was a terrible tale. In my head, I knew I should get out of there as quickly as possible, but I couldn't. I couldn't let her get away with what she'd done, when she clearly had no remorse at all. I suppose it was my journal spirit getting all fired up. No sound. Only empty. I'd like to ask you something. Yes. You often talk about justice. But surely as a journalist, you could have used other means to deliver the justice you sought. There's no justice in the press. Sorry? After that trial 9 months ago, I kept digging and digging to find out what happened in the courtroom. And finally, I discovered the truth. It was a cover-up. That's what it was. A cover-up? What do you mean? I would remind you of your position, witness. Be careful of what you say. Oh, come on! Doesn't it strike you as strange? We're suddenly not allowed to convict a foreign nation? National? Consular jurisdiction. God damn it, water. Should never have come into it. And yet, that puffed up English woman was going to sail away into the sunset a free woman. The only possible explanation is that behind the scenes, some deal had gone down between Britain and Japan. What sort of deal? I'd done my research, dug up all the dirt. It was all ready to be published. But you know what happened? The editor just tore the article up. He came under pressure from the government, you mean? If our government is going to let criminals walk free, if they're going to crush the free press, then what choice do I have but to see that justice is done myself? Let's not forget, Memo-san, that you committed murder yourself and you tried to lay the blame at the defendant's door. I'm sorry, but you're no better than Giselle Brett. What? The truth is, you have no right to talk about justice at all. I suppose. Hypocrite! It would appear that we have reached a conclusion in this trial at last. Counsel for the defense, Ryotaro Naruhodo. Oh. Yes, sorry, Your Excellency. Just using in a manly way here. Manly. Very manly. It's almost unbelievable that this is your first experience in the Supreme Court. It was an excellent performance. In truth, it very much reminded me of your cousin's exploits. Hey! Oh, Naruhodo-san. Ryunosuke, you mean? Manly man! The way he handled the trial 9 months ago, and the way you handled this one. It gives me hope that we are genuinely entering a new era of justice in this land. That's very flattering, Your Excellency. Hearing the defense you put forward today made me feel most keenly that the future of our justice system will be forged by you and your contemporaries. Thank you. So, Prosecution Aochi, do you have any final thoughts? What are you doing? Prosecutor Aochi? I, Taketsuchi of the Aochi clan, have been bested by a callow youth not once now, but twice. If there was any shred of my former self left, it has withered and died here today. Cut your hair. Don't cut your hair. Gosh. Your journey to cultural enlightenment sure took a while, didn't it? Silence! Rather than living in shame, I will end it all now with this blade. For that is the true part of Aochism. Aochiism? One hopes that the only way in which he'll be modeling himself after witness. Spring of my topknot. The time is right for farewell. Hope is lost forever. Taketsuchi. What the hell? Ah! What the fuck? Oh. Es tut mir leid, das ist zu Anime. Das ist einfach so. I pray for you. No. Damn it. Oh Mann, ey. I salute you here. Oh my god. God, man. What the fuck? Now, in regards to the defendant, Ray Membami-san.
Yes, Your Excellency?
I have reached my final verdict. I hereby find you not guilty. Locke. He's just destroyed. He's a broken man now. He's broken.
Guck mal, es sind die ganzen Sakura Blossom, Sakura.
Court is adjourned. Court is adjourned. Ey. 13. August, 2:38 Uhr. Boah, so lange. Supreme Court of Judicature, Defendants and Chamber 3. It's over. My heart is still pounding in my chest, though. It's all I can do just to stay standing. Lawyers have such great responsibilities, such a great burden to bear. Don't they, Naruhodo-san? I sheeped him.
Susato! Thank you so much. You were so dashing in there.
Ray and father.
Honestly, I'm so touched by everything you've... Oh no, I think I'm going to cry.
It wasn't easy, but together we made it. I was on the verge of tears at the end too.
The only reason I'm still here is because of you.
Oh no, I can't take all the credit. It took courage to tell the truth in there. You did wonderfully, Ray. So I would have to say that the congratulations belong to you.
Susato, don't be so standoffish.
Sorry?
We're friends, equals, and the trial's over. So no more of this farmer's super humility nonsense. It's time to celebrate with swagger, to throw a caution to the wind.
Caution to the... What?
I'm the great defense lawyer, Ryotaro Naruhodo, and I'm taking you out of that milk bar tomorrow.
Moment! Ray will sagen, Susato soll sie auf einen Drink einladen. I see. I see.
Or something.
Right. I see. I'll, think about it, Ray. Awkward!
At any rate, we really knocked the wind out of that horrid man, and it felt so good.
Yes, it was satisfying.
It really was. Isn't there anybody else who could throw together?
We could throw together. I hope you're not looking at me, Ray.
Oh my goodness! No, of course not! Of course not!
Nie. There it is at last. Ray's lovely smile. You fought for your friend to the very last. As your father, I'm extremely proud of you. Defense Attorney Ryotaro Naruhodo.
Thank you, but I couldn't have done it without your help. Anyway, it's time to bid farewell to Ryotaro, I think. I shall miss him in a way, but it's back to Susato Mikotoba now.
No yeet?
So I'll never see him again then? What a terrible shame!
No! What? Who is it? Oh, hello.
What is happening? Ah, Saseki-san and Inspector Hosonaga. I do hope you've been keeping well.
Is that really you?
Yes, I had to change my appearance for, well, obvious reasons, I hope. But it's me. Susato Mikotoba.
Don't... So dashing, so divine! Love it! No! Doubly dashing, yes, and devilishly divine! Just look at you! I had no idea Mrs. Sato-san Esquires, that you were locum student Naruhodo-san's Esquire's cousin. No! Saseki. Astounding, Ace Attorney. Wait, no, you've got it. Okay. Poor Saseki-san, so confused. He confusion. I still remember the first time I've ever met him. He was in a prison cell in London. What an extraordinary conundrum it was that the unwitting student from Japan found himself embroiled in. But after Naruhodo-san's skillful defense at the Old Bailey, Saseki-san was free to return to Japan. And now he seems to have earned himself great fame as an author. I'm stunned. That's a truly impressive disguise. Viel besser als deine. Even I had no idea, and I am a chief inspector at the police bureau, who came up with Mr. Turtle, no less. Good. I'm not sure you should be admitting to that, Inspector. Amazing. You're a woman of many faces, I see. Just two, really. And this was a once-in-a-lifetime event, I hope. Oh, I'm not a patch on you though, Inspector. Well, I am a professional, of course. Hallo, Linko, na? The Reaper of the Old Bailey soon again. Ich hoffe. Ja, habe ich ihn gesprochen? Ich weiß es nicht mehr. Er meint seine amazing Verkleidung. Fucking Schildkröte auf den Kopf gebunden. I do worry about Inspector Hosonaga sometimes. I really do. Ich würde auch. 9 months ago, when he appeared here at the Supreme Court to testify, he was undercover, disguised as the head waiter of a restaurant. Oh yeah. And then on the steamship to Great Britain, of course, disguised as a sailor, to keep us safe on the journey. Though, that didn't help you, didn't it, Kazuma-sama? From my perspective, I have to admit that I have mixed feelings about all this. I mean, now the truth has been lost forever. Which truth? What do you mean? I'm talking about the murder that the Englishwoman committed at the end of last year. Ah, yes. It was an English doctor she killed, as I understand it. Yeah! Dr. John H. Wilson, yes. The man I invited to Japan personally. The misery is, why did she kill him? And now that the culprit herself is dead, we'll probably never know the answer. On the voyage to Great Britain, we had a most unexpected encounter. With Mr. Sherlock Holmes, the great detective, I mean. Yes, I remember Mr. Holmes well, of course. Ah. My arch-nemesis, how lightly you utter his name. Well, according to the stories published about him in The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, the detective once had a partner who helped him solve crimes, a best friend. And that man was exceptional doctor of medicine by the name of John H. Wilson. Oh, what? Dr. Wilson? I just can't believe that it's a coincidence. I think that the English doctor of medicine killed here in Japan 9 months ago must have been the friend of and partner of Mr. Holmes. And if that's really true, then the poor girl won't ever see her beloved father again. Not Iris, no! Poor Iris. As you know, I traveled to Great Britain once myself to study. It was around the time you were born. Yes, grandmother told me about it. On returning to Japan, I took up my professorship at the Imperial Yume University. But I also serve another role, as an advisor to the government on diplomatic affairs. Yes, I was aware of that as well. In that case, I'm sure you understand that there are some confidential matters I cannot divulge to you. Oh, could you just tell me one thing? Why did you summon me back to Japan? It's been 2 months now since I returned. When I left England, I was because an urgent telegram had arrived from Japan. It said that you'd collapsed with a high fever, and you were growing weaker by the day. What? Where did that news come from? That's what I'd like to know, because after that long sea voyage, I found you in fine health, Father. Was there something in Great Britain that you perceived might inconvenience me in some way or harm me? That's really the only explanation I can think of. Dear me. Do reserve your most cutting layers for your father, Susato. I'm sorry, my dear. I simply can't. Let me go! Mini Memo-san. So, one throw wasn't enough for you? I've got one last thing to say before they take me away, Professor. Me? I know the truth. I know you had a hand in what went on. In that visiting student's fate. Visiting student? Giselle Brett, you mean? No, not her! The student of law, who left for Great Britain 8 months ago. What? Student of law? He must mean... Kazuma-sama. What are you talking about? What does any of this have to do with Kazuma-sama? Nobody here in Japan knows anything about it. They don't know what the guy never made it to England, that he died on that steamship, and that he'll never... Oh. Ah, no, Chant! Well, I didn't expect to find him here. What were your officers playing at? Sorry, Your Excellency. Jetzt hat der Judge ihn einfach auf den Boden gehauen. Rude. I was coming to tell you that the rickshaw has arrived here, Eugene. And it's a good job I came by. Danke. Thank you for dealing with him, and I'll be there shortly. Oh, Your Excellency. The trial's over. I'm not Your Excellency anymore. Merely your father's friend, Seishiro Chikoku. Was ist hier los? What's going on? What the fuck? And I might say that since I saw you last, you seem to have taken on a more dashing appearance. Susato. He knew! Did you know all along? From the start of the trial? The judge sees everything, Susato. Oh no! I couldn't let you take the risk if Seishiro here hadn't known, and then he'd recognized you. So I had to a word in his ear beforehand, as an old friend. Das stinkt schlimmer als ein fauliger Fischmarkt, das stimmt. So, Seishiro, shall we? Yes, having ruled on that case, we now have various diplomatic issues to address. Before you go, Father. Sorry, my dear. We shall have to return to our earlier conversations at a later date. But well done again, both of you. You did admirably. Oh, thank you very much. What did you think of my Seishiro sling, eh? It's been a while since I sent a man flying like that. What is going on? Whatever could Father be hiding from me? About Giselle Brett, about Dr. Wilson. And now, it seems according to the reporter, about Kazuma-sama. I'm going to have to bring this up with Father sometime, when nobody else is around. Judicial Assistant Mikotoba-san, Esquires. Could I have a word? Oh, yes, of course, Soseki-san. What is it? I think perhaps it could be fate that we're meeting again like this now. You see, there's something I need to tell you. Oh? I believe that it may be related to the reason why your father summoned you back from England. This I have to hear. Please, Soseki-san, tell me at once. I will! Okay. As you know, my time in England was terrible. Cursed, I have no doubt. Such awful things I was embroiled with. Thank goodness Lockham student Naruhodo's son Esquire stepped in. After he secured my freedom, I couldn't wait to get on a ship back here to my homeland. Having arrived in Japan, I submitted a report about my experiences to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The next thing I knew, I had a visitor. It was your father, Professor Mikotoba. He wanted to ask me all sorts of things about my report. My father? He seemed to be especially taken with a particular part of the report. Anyway, he left eventually, having thoroughly quizzed me. But it was the very next day that he sent a telegram to you, asking you to return to Japan. What was it then, the particular part my father was interested in? I don't really know exactly. But do you remember then? Those two terrible cases I was caught up in? Of course, I could never forget. Your father seemed to concern himself mainly with the second case. The second one? You mean the one Mr. Sholmes forbade any of us to talk about in public? Which is why the only case involving you that any member of the public is aware of is the first. Well, I don't care. I don't have to listen to what this hardly detective says. Anyway, the point is, it seems that case somehow holds the key to all these curious unanswered questions. That horrific, hideous, heinous case. The case of the haunted lodgings. Puh. The case somehow caused my father to summon me urgently back to Japan. I thought that the whole business was over, but it seems I was wrong. Perhaps that was only the start. Perhaps the story is not yet told. Three. So? Oh.
The mystery of that English woman's death is solved, thank goodness. And having stood in the Supreme Court now, I think I can comprehend a little better. How you must be feeling as you fight for people's freedom in a foreign land, Naruhodo-san. But actually, I'm writing to you today because of another matter. I met Soseki-san and we talked about that second case he was involved in. Father has said nothing to me, but I feel certain of it. That case holds the key to some great unsolved mystery. My notes on the case should still be in the office, tucked away at the back of the shelves on the left. Perhaps you might like to look over them again. Today, for the first time this year, it feels as though summer has arrived. The sky is a brilliant blue. It makes me long to see you again. Yours, Susato.
Oh, das hat Yours geschrieben. Nee, das ist das Grab von Kazuma. Summer. End. 3 Stunden. Wann haben wir Raid? Yes, please save. Uhr. Habe ich noch irgendwas, was ich jetzt spielen könnte? Weil ein neues Trial anfangen will ich nicht. Haben ja das letzte Mal, haben ja festgestellt, das ist eine dumme Idee. Was habe ich denn noch? Ich habe nicht viel. Na, sonst ist es halt jetzt nach 3 Stunden schon fertig, I guess. Dann level ich nachher einfach noch ein bisschen weiter Final Fantasy 12, dass wir das hoffentlich nächste Woche abschließen könnten oder in 2 Wochen maximal. Aber ich muss noch leveln. Mache ich das einfach bis Raid. Aber das muss ich nicht on-stream machen, weil das ist eh nicht interessant. Ich mache eh 4-fache Geschwindigkeit bis bla. So, genau. Wir können vielleicht noch... Okay. Das haben wir gespielt. Das nächste ist The Memoirs of the Clouded Kokoro. Wie viele sind's? 5. Das dritte ist The Great Departed Soul. What the fuck is this shit? Ist das im Kristallpalast? Was ist den Kristallpalast? Twisted Karma and his last bow. The Resolve of Ryunosuke Naruhodo. Jo. Dann. Yes, back to the title screen. Dann ist irgendwer online. Kann ich irgendwen raiden? Oh, warte, mein Raid-Knopf geht immer noch nicht. Warum geht mein Raid-Knopf wieder nicht? Ich hasse das. Ist irgendwer online, den man raiden könnte? Der irgendwas Interessantes spielt. Hallo? Nee? Nee? Beides online. Ha, nee, okay. Den raiden wir eh nicht. Na dann. Ja, bist halt genau am Ende gekommen. Naja, okay, wir haben niemanden zum Raiden. Dann einfach würde ich einen schönen Rest vom Sonntag wünschen und have fun bis nächste Woche und so. Und einen schönen Rest vom Wochenende. Goodbye.